Hello, I would like to welcome you all, but most of all, my lovely guests. Welcome, Lena Chmielewska-Bontron, good morning, Łukasz Kośliński, good morning, Mark Andy. It's us again. I'm very happy that we're meeting again. I have some burning questions for you. Can you handle that? Yeah, we'll try to survive. Today, I would like to talk about a completely different topic, low migration. What is it? Is it profitable at all? Does anybody care about it? Yeah, what is that? We'll try to answer this question on the 23rd of May during our meeting, Training for Clients. Well, low migration comes up in discussions with customers, suppliers and partners, but it's time to get down to the topic, and that was the reason that made us decide to organize such a training, a seminar for clients from all over Europe to talk about the final situation regarding low migration. What are the rules? What are the requirements? When will low migration really come into effect? Wait a minute, Lena. You're saying something our listeners don't quite know and understand. Don't say it halfway through. Łukasz, please explain what's going on with this low migration. Low migration applies to the packaging market, especially where the packaging is in contact with nutritional product, food, or soon it will be related to the cosmetics market. The point is that UV printing, but not only, because also printing with water or solvent paints. These paints have all sorts of chemicals in them. Chemicals, by applying them to the packaging on the material, either paper, aluminum foil, or any other, can somehow migrate to the product in the packaging, depending on what conditions it's in, at what temperature it was stored, and so on and so on. These ink residues may migrate more or less depending on the technology, whether it will be solvent or water paint, and in particular, this applies to the UV printing packaging. This is due to the fact that by fixing the UV paint, we create a kind of plastic on the surface of the packaging. With the help of polymerization, with the help of various activators that polymerize this paint, de facto, what is not used in the polymerization process can somehow migrate, especially free radicals. Okay, so the next question is, what does Mark Andy have to do with migration? I mean, these are paints. Lena, of course, we're aware that machine doesn't really decide whether or not the ink will migrate and to what extent. But we decided some time ago in our company to focus not only on machines, but we also focus on technology in general. We have been supporting our clients for many years when it comes to preparing the entire technology and designing this technology. We help clients during the research of many problems they encounter. Therefore, the idea for this type of training was born some time ago. Even last year, we started technological training because we see a huge need for customers for this type of training. Customers have nowhere to gain knowledge, so we try to help them as much as we can. Hence, the idea. Okay. So let's go back to low migration. Łukasz, let's put it this way. Do you know more or less what the regulation look like? in all that is said in the world, in Europe, and how does it look like in terms of requirements when it comes to low migration? I just wanted to refer to the fact that in conversations with customers, whether training, commercial or social, the topic of food safety in packaging is very often mentioned. There are many different views on this subject. Everyone has a different understanding of the regulations, which are quite vague and inconsistent. Somewhere, there are some directives hanging in the air. They're about to come in. Let's agree that these directives are only a signpost, while there are no such detailed national regulations. Yes, this is exactly why there is a lot of ambiguity here. Hence our idea to conduct such a training discussion panel. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but it's worth knowing that in other countries, these regulations have already appeared. And if ordering parties appear here in Poland from other countries, they require specific things, like very specific. Yes, and here with so-called Swiss ordinance at the forefront, where it is respected, we, as the Mark Andy company, often sell advanced machines for printing, for example, on aluminum lids for yogurts. And there, companies cooperate with large brands such as Nestle, Bacoma, and others. There is a very strict regime, so what can migrate from this lid to yogurt, or as much as possible. And then we provide special fixing system in the machine in nitrogen chambers. These are UV lamps in the chambers, which we fill in with nitrogen. Then we just drive the oxygen out of the chamber. We drive out the place where the paint is fixed. We drive out the oxygen, which is quite undesirable in this case, because when such oxygen gets UV radiation, it loses an electron, and this free radical, oxygen, that has not one electron on its outer shell, is very reactive. It wants to enter into a relationship with practically anything, and it migrates simply through the packaging to the actual product. Of course, this is very generalized description. I'm very happy about it because chemistry has never been my strong suit. But tell me how it manifests itself. For example, for a normal user who enters a store and does not know what and how to pay attention to when looking at choosing safe packaging, safe product. A typical example where UV printing is clearly in direct contact with the product is, for example, yogurt. There is an aluminum lid on the yogurt, which is printed with UV paints from the top. And this is where the whole technology that we want to present lies. How was it printed? What power did the UV lamp work with? What was the printing speed of the machine? How much photonics in paint was there? And how was it measured? And we will conduct this whole panel with the Hamilton Chemical Laboratory. And that can be measured whether this packaging is food safe. How much of this paint chemicals has actually migrated to yogurt? There are two studies, the so-called general migration and the specific migration. Specific will show what has migrated. General will show how much of that has migrated. And at least in such a printing house making packaging for the food market, where the packaging is clearly in contact with food, at least the general migration should be done and supervised. Oh, everything is great, but you didn't say one little thing. You didn't answer my question. So what was the question? Lena, it's your turn. How the buyers could pay attention or recognize the product that is safe for them? They're not able to do this. They're just not. I mean, as long as they know the rules, they can guess. but they're not able to verify in the store standing by the shelf whether the product inside the package is safe for them. Unfortunately, the problem with migration in Poland, but not only in many other countries, is that, let's say, we introduce a product, design a label, check the migration. Let's say there is no migration or it's in acceptable amounts. Currently, we don't have non-migrating paints. The product is okay. The problem is that there is no or has been any checkup during the production process. So we check something at the very beginning, and then what happens to the product? Well, nobody really knows. And this is going to change a bit in the next 2 years, as far as I know. And my colleague from Hamilton is supposed to confirm it during training, that these rules are the law, and it's going to change a bit. So the requirements for printing houses, the requirements for labels will also change. Here, referring to a question, how is the customer supposed to know if this product is clean and safe? They will not know really until the very end. As Lena said here, it will be a matter of trust in the brand, to the food manufacturer. Are there appropriate procedures, appropriate rules, and regimes kept? A thing came to my mind. In fact, we missed one little thing to show customers that there are appropriate stamps, icons, or symbols on these packaging. And with these symbols, you can mark many different things, that something is composed, that something is recyclable, that we can throw something away here or there, or we can just throw it away because we don't do anything with it. It might be a good idea to introduce a label that would clearly provide this type of information. But on the other hand, an education is needed, strong action by all producers in order to explain in general what packaging such as these symbols mean and what it's all about. Because when we meet here with many guests, we talk about packaging and labels, and there's always a question, well, what is there on this label and the symbol? That's right. We have more and more information on the label, more and more information that does not even fit on the label, hence such a large development of the multi-page label. But apart from this, it seems to me that if we are talking about migration, we will not be able to define it in the form of symbols or icons on the label, because it will be very difficult for the average person to understand. We, as polygraphers or people working in the industry, are able to understand what this ink migration is all about, but the average person will not understand it. Rather, it seems to me that the legislator will not go towards symbols, but it will be up to the printing house or the producer to ensure that there is no ink migration to the product used by the average person. But we'll think about it in a moment, okay? I would like to refer to an example of a product that we all buy in a chain store, a tomato with a sticker on. It is printed and glued to this tomato. Is that tomato safe, or is that sticker safe? Look, you said it to me. Yes, but it was behind the scenes. I gave the simple example of this migration. I would just buy a tomato without the sticker in the store. No matter how good the standards are, how good the paint is, how good the glue is, it's always in direct contact with food, and you would have to have a very strict standards for the sticker to fit. But it's different in the market. But let's look at all these vegetables and fruits that they're all with the sticker. And what are we supposed to do now, Lena? Well, this is a bit of curiosity because we talk a lot about ecology, safety, and eco-friendly approach. We're talking about our safety. And at the end of the day, we have a product tightly packed, printed, and so on. And this is a bit of madness. We want to talk about this madness a bit during our training and draw attention of printing houses, producers, to what point this madness can be and what are the standards. When we should introduce certain standards, certain requirements into our printing process. And here, a colleague from Hamilton will definitely show the way, the right way for every print shop, because you have to be clear that not every label will require low migration. Well, industrial labels are an example where they don't need it at all. Yes, but for example, in the world of labels for cosmetics, a lot is about to change. It's going to happen, right? Yes, and we want to prepare our clients and our printing houses for what they may face in a year or two when the new regulations come into force. And here again, a colleague from Hamilton will talk about it and is able to help printing houses to prepare for that, because these new regulations will come into force. And our task, our goal during this training is to prepare printing houses for the new rules when it comes to ink migration. And we will also show examples of printing. We have done some research on migration, and during these trainings, we will share the results of the research. Referring to the cosmetics market, it is worth saying that theoretically, cosmetics also nourish. We put them on our face, hair, skin. And they should be as safe as food. Oh, please stop. All cosmetic manufacturers say that everything is beautiful and their products are the best. This is where trust in the manufacturer of your cosmetics or food lies. We are left, so to speak, to believe that our supplier meets all standards and even more. Yes, we must be aware that not every packaging is safe. If we're talking about glass, this is a great packaging here. One of the best barrier properties for all packaging, sauces, juices, where we have a label on a bottle. It will not migrate. However, if we're talking about a plastic bottle, for example, shampoo in it, you might think that it's also a safe packaging, but it's not. When we study migration, we test the final product. We put a label on the package, we put the product inside, and we have to test the whole product, the final product. And we check what went into this shampoo from such packaging. Or in other words, what is really pouring out of this package after some time? Well, there are also different types of aging tests. These studies are really all kinds That is a very complex topic indeed. There are different materials, different food, non-food, and technical products. Lena talked about the safety of glass. Yes, glass is a great barrier. The question is whether this cap is a barrier, right? See how many aspects you need to pay attention to be 100% sure that this product inside is safe for our health. And this cap is not only metal because it has, for example, a rubber in it on the inside. Yeah. And here we want to start the discussion, bring this topic closer, what you need to pay attention to when producing packaging. And this is the goal of our workshops. I think that one workshop will not end there. There will be many more because this topic hangs in the air and it will hit our market sooner or later. But later may be too late. Yes, so you need to prepare in advance so that there are no surprises. When we started the topic of migration and came up with the idea of creating a training, it seemed to us that it would be very easy and pleasant to prepare such a training. But we started further discussions, talked with the Hamilton, and it turned out that it is such a complex process. Yes, the research is very complex. That our original idea, for example, to choose the label we want to promote during our training, well, we had to change a bit because it turned out that some things are impossible. Can you give us an example? Yes, well, first of all, a highly processed label is probably one of the most difficult to examine and complicated when it comes to migration. So here, at least at the stage of designing the label itself, I'm no longer talking about the product or the packaging itself, but the design of the label itself must be already oriented in the context of migration. And here, the graphic designer himself, who has no idea about how low migration, will have to have some awareness of how to design the label, what ink, and what number of colors, what decorations to use. You use the word ink. After all, no designer looks at it this way. He just has to design, put it into production, and that's it. Yeah, this is another aspect of how complex this topic is. And we approach this topic quite ambitiously. Let's do something about it. The slow migration. Let's bring the information of our industry closer. And the farther into the forest, the more trees. We started to have mixed feelings about how to approach this all. It will also not be like that UV technology or the use of such paints or other will be banned overnight. The packaging industry is quite strategic in terms of the economy and the market, because if there is no packaging, every other industry does not produce. So you can ban this because the whole market will be dead. So even in terms of legislation, it's quite a complex topic, and it's not that easy to suddenly introduce regulations in this market. This has to be done really gradually and carefully. This is what we should expect from our government, right? Yeah, it would be nice. Maybe we'll change the subject. I don't think many people know that there is such a thing as a closed product cycle. There is simply a label that we design and send to production, and then it comes back recycled, and then comes back as another product for this production. As a curiosity, I will say that there is already this RFID, which is biodegradable. Very interesting. And you know that RFID is already obsolete history, not only NFC. NFC is 1-to-1 and RFID is many to one. So now we're going back to this workshop. This training, when will it be, Lena? May 23rd, 24th. May 23rd, 24th. It's worth putting into your calendar. For all those who are interested in labels and migration, whether this label is safe and how to produce it, how to purpose to the customer, whether this label can be different, more ecological, more safe to us. This is the time when it's worth to appear at Mark Andy Technology Center in Warsaw, and it's worth registering. The link will be given under the podcast. Thank you once again for being here. Lena Chmielewska-Bontron and Łukasz Kruszczyński. Thank you for having us.
Naszej rozmowy. Wszystkiego dobrego i słyszymy się już za tydzień w następnym niezbędniku poligrafa. Do usłyszenia.